didn't expect such impact, such authenticity.
I don't know. I don't think exceptional is the right word.
You don't?
No. I mean, what's exceptional about a primitive tribe like the Yakumo being terrorized and forced into doing something they don't normally do?
Come on now, Professor. Let's be realistic. Who knows anything about the Yakumo civilization? Today, people want sensationalism. The more you rape their senses, the happier they are.
Ah, yes, that's typical Western thought. Civilized, isn't it? That's what Alan thought, and that's why he's dead. The Yakumo Indian is a primitive, and he has to be respected as such. You know, did you ever think of the Yakumo point of view, that we might be the ones who are savages?
Well, I never thought of it that way, but it's an interesting idea.
Yes. Let's say things were reversed, right? And the Yakumo attacked your house, defiled everything that you held holy. You know that pig that was killed? That was food for those people. Now, what had happened if somebody came into your house when you were hungry and took the little bit of food you had in the refrigerator and threw it down the toilet? Would you behave in a civilized way? Would you like people to make money off your misery?
Yes, welcome back to the Dreadcast, folks, episode 32. Our lovely Aidan Half-Troll is back with us after succeeding his probation in the first episode.
Popping my cherry.
It was awesome.
The performance was adequate enough that I'm back for more.
It was awesome, and we had a great chat about
We
Chucky.
did.
I think we went
it.
longer than we had probably planned.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at when I was editing it, it came to like hour 50, and I trimmed some bits out, like bits that we hadn't, bits when we were talking that weren't part of the pod and stuff. But we just kept going. It was great. We had a great time.
Didn't feel like that. Didn't feel like that long. It was good.
No, it really didn't, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. It means our conversation just flew by. What was I gonna say?
Glad to be back for more.
I'm glad to have you back. Glad to have you back. And yes, do go follow Mr. Aidan Half-Troll there. I put his social media below him. Well, that's pointing below me. He'll be to my left. There he is. And mine there. And you can follow the Dreadcast on Instagram and find it on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, and YouTube. I'm trying to get that in at the beginning of the episode as well, just in case people drop off and think, well, I can't be bothered with this shit. Try and get them in now.
Of course.
I have just one thing to say before we move on. Shout out to Langers on YouTube. New subscriber.
Oh, yeah.
Found us the other day, and it was on your episode.
It was.
Your first episode. Shout out to you, sir. Hope you enjoy this content, and if you went back to any past content, but thank you for subscribing, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to read.
Yeah.
A fellow Chucky trauma survivor.
Well, he bought a 1-to-1 scale, didn't he?
I know. I've seen it. I think that's it's a fairly new release. It's based on the Child's Play 2 Chucky. If I remember rightly, I saw another somebody doing an unboxing of it the other day. It looks really good.
1-to-1. Did we? Now, I have him here. Did we state, was he taller than Warwick Davis or shorter than Warwick Davis?
He is taller than Warwick Davis by, I think it was about 6 inches.
Well done, Langers. You've got your own Warwick Davis. You've got your own Warwick Davis. But yeah, thank you, dude. Very much appreciate it. And anyone else that is new to the Dreadcast, and yeah, love you all. So before we get into the film, you've been reading a pretty interesting book you told me about.
Oh, the Final Girls. The Final Girls Survivor Group. Yeah, this is a book I picked up by now I'm gonna misremember his name.
You didn't think I was gonna go to that, did you?
I had an inkling. Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is the name of the author. So he's written a bunch of books. He's got a new one called How to Sell a Haunted House, which is just about to come out. So, yeah. But the book I read was The Final Girl Support Group, which was a ruddy good read.
It really sounded like it from the way you described it. It sounded
yeah,
really
it was. I don't really know what it was. It wasn't. It is. There's a lot of humor in his books generally. I think. I mean, that was the first one that I read, so it wasn't as heavy as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
But as you can probably tell from the title, sort of self-explanatory. The premise is a bunch of survivors of real life serial killers, quote, slashers, have been meeting to support each other through the horrific ordeals they experienced. The twist on it and the riff on it is that their experiences became horror franchises, and each one is like an equivalent of what we know as a real life movie franchise. So there's somebody that survived the Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque experience. Yeah. There's another character survived the Ghostface experience, and some of them sold the movie rights, got involved in the movie rights. Others have tried to bury the past, and they learn how to shoot, and they're constantly watching their backs. And then somebody starts to pick them off again one by one, and that's the plot of the book. And I won't say any more about the plot because obvious spoilers. But there's a ton of references. So if you like your slasher movies, even a passing casual fan you'd pick up on so many references. And it was great. Yeah, it was great read. And I've just started one of his others because he's an author that I'm gonna try and devour everything that he's done. The one I've just started is a haunted house set in an IKEA-like furniture store.
It's basically IKEA then.
I mean, yeah, it's
May
not
as well
called
be
that, but it's essentially that's what it is. Other flat pack furniture stores are available.
We're not trying to shill as well. We're not trying to shill these books. Like we don't know this author.
No.
Just add in a nice little. What have you been up to? What have you been doing horror wise and stuff? And that specifically as a first one, that's really intrigued me. That premise.
Yeah, it was a great read. Really was. Really enjoyed it.
And I'm not the biggest reader. If there, like I think we were talking about the other day about audiobooks. If there was an audiobook of that, I'd give it a go. Reading, if there's pictures, I'm good.
I'm sure. I mean, there's no pictures. I'm sure there'll be an audio, but like I say, I've seen 2 or 3 of his others as audiobooks, so I'm sure that one will be as well. But yeah, I loved it. And like I say, if I think there's enough there that you'll get hooked, even if you're not a big reader generally, because I think you'll get a kick out of the subject matter and the Easter eggs and the little references.
I think my imagination would get into it as well, because already right now, and even when we talked about it before, because I know you say they reference this survivor, instantly in my head, like Sally Hardesty, Sidney Prescott, and then I'm trying to. My imagination goes, okay, what if they do meet and they interact? Then then this starts happening. Right? Is that what it is? So, yeah.
I mean, essentially, yeah. It's as if all those girls are friends. I mean, obviously the names are different and the killers' names are different, but the descriptions of what they went through is enough for you to say, that's Friday the 13th or whatever franchise. Yeah, and like you say, because those movie franchises exist and you're a fan of them anyway, half the imagination work's done for you and you can picture those characters. Yeah, it was cool. It's been sat on my shelf for ages, man, and I was like, right, I'm gonna finally read it, and I'm glad I did. I devoured it in like 2 days. It was brilliant.
Yeah, you blasted through that. Wow.
Yeah, so my New Year's resolution to read more books, and I've like hit the ground running.
Well.
I've got about 5 done already.
All right. Save some for someone else. I hate using the term. I hate the term now of cinematic universe, but it does sound like it could, if all the pieces fell into place, you could somehow potentially get maybe a cinematic 1 or 2 film franchise out of that. I mean, it'd be tougher, say Sally from Texas Chainsaw, that was 74, meeting Sydney from Scream, which was 96. It would have to be, say, a group of final girls or whatever from horror films over a span of 10 years, maybe. That would maybe me, or you bring back an older, like Sally. She's old now. She's trying to, she's explaining what she's gone through. But that would be quite cool. And then you bring in this new killer. Why is it happening? Cinematic universe. I hate that, but
of slashers.
Yeah.
Well, we're still waiting on that Freddy vs. Jason sequel.
The one with Michael and Ash. Or is it the one with... No, was it with Ash?
I think Ash was going to be in it at some point, because
Yeah.
I think didn't they do a comic?
Yeah, I think there was. I think we talked about this on our Freddy vs. Jason episode. Thankfully, we've got that out of the way. We don't need to do that one again.
I like Freddy vs. Jason for what it was.
I like it for the soundtrack by Il Nino.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that was such a like mid early 2000s horror movie.
Yep, of
thing,
the time,
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Guys getting high in it constantly.
Get some
awful
new metal on the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's why I like it. And then I mean, you want to go on the tangent? We can talk about Godsmack in the Scorpion King.
Oh, what was that song?
It's called "I Stand Alone." I listened to it the other day.
That's it.
I know it.
Oh, it's a banger.
It's a bad banger, but it's a good banger at the same time.
Wasn't Marilyn Manson on the Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows soundtrack as well? I think to recall.
What a film! Oh, what a film! Oh, that's a bad film. That's a bad film. Speaking of bad, but not for the not for the awful reasons, but for the reasons that it got banned.
And steering us back onto track, deftly.
Yeah, it's quite a bad segue.
It's a really hard fought U-turn.
I tried. This week's episode, 1980, Cannibal Holocaust, because Ruggero Deodato passed away a few weeks ago, and I figured what better way to shoehorn an episode in and then leech off an unfortunate passing of a famous horror director. And I think I got his name right. Ruggero. Yes. I even wrote that in my notes.
Ruggero.
I spelt it phonetically. Not Ruggero. I spelt it Ruggero. So
I just feel like I should apologise up front for any horrible pronunciation of Italian names that I absolutely butcher during the course of this.
I feel like we apologise every episode on this podcast for any
for something.
I think there was when we did the Hellraiser, 2022 Hellraiser, the main protagonist, the actress's name, I think I can remember it. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I'm probably going to butcher it again. Was Odessa Azion or something like that. I'm sorry. I'm sure she's listening, and I apologize. But yeah, this podcast is full of butchering, so go for it. It's fine. Yeah, this was a hard film. This was a tough one to get through. You said you hadn't. You'd watched it quite recently.
Yeah, within the last 3-4 months. Yeah, me and my girlfriend got on a bit of a horror kick, but specifically kind of older films like 70s, a lot of 70s horror films we were watching. And I was like, oh, what about Cannibal Holocaust?
What about it?
And, well, just all I'll say is when I mentioned that I had to watch it again for the pod, she flat out refused to watch it with me. Yeah, she's not in it. I don't think she'll ever watch it again, quite honestly. So yeah, I did want to, and as it pans out, I didn't actually get a chance to watch it properly before because it was removed from the streaming services that I rely on.
Yeah, you can't trust streaming services, folks. You can't trust people. People voted for Coldplay and the Nazis, so people will also remove films from streaming sites.
But the thing about this is it sticks in your mind because
you never forget it.
There's quite a lot that goes on, and yeah, I mean, I did watch a couple of documentaries about it. So it's all.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling
you watched the Cursed Films episode, and I watched
the
that
Cursed
ages ago,
Films
so I don't
episode,
remember
yeah.
that well. And I watched the documentary myself, so that's quite good. You watched one, and I watched one.
So yeah, ready, fully prepped and prepared to talk about it. I'm just gonna ask you this, Tom, like just straight off the bat, before we get into the I know, Sunday name. Before we get into the detail of it, do you like this film? Would you say you actually enjoy it? You're a fan?
Good question. It's a fine question, Aidan. It's a fine question. I'm not a fan, but I do think. So what I wrote down here, right? I've seen this film now this was my third time I've ever seen this film, and each time I've watched it, I've noticed, I've realized something new in it. And for me, this time it was the plot twist that you don't really see where the plot changes about halfway through. Yeah, and I enjoyed that plot twist. It made the film a bit more likable in a way because the characters were so unlikable. I was like, okay, all right, I'm involved. Rather than when I said to you earlier, I started watching Cannibal Ferox earlier. That is literally, from what I've seen, I've never seen it before. I started about half hour in. That to me just seems like a film where people go into a jungle and they get eaten by a tribe. It feels like there's not much substance to the plot. It is what it is. It's a hard one. That is a hard one to answer. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. This is great. I really enjoyed it. I would say, okay, it's not a bad horror film. It's bad in the disgusting sense, but I like the story. I liked where it goes. It throws you off. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's one I would just choose to watch again. It's one I'd like for the collection. It's one I'd like for the physical collection for what it is. I would love to get the 4K edition and see what special features are on it. That's a tough question. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
I think we're coming from the same. I think we're on the same page because I don't feel like I need to watch it again.
No.
But I appreciate its legacy. I appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say, "Oh yeah, it's a great film. Go and watch it." I don't think I'd go that far. But but it's a must-see horror for other reasons, because of its history, because of what followed it, because of what it did. I think it's important.
There we go. Look at that.
There you go.
It's important.
So I think we're coming from a similar place with this then, because it's and I think another point to mention, talking about other cannibal films, because it is one of a trend in I think particularly Italian cinema.
Oh yeah, it's Italian giallos,
of the early 80s. Is it late 70s, early 80s, or is it purely 80s? But within that sort of
same time frame.
Yeah, that sort of 10-year either side of the decade. Cannibal films were a trend. That was like the film and this is probably the best example of them.
I'd say so. I would say so for sure. I think as well, just to add on to the point of the question you asked me, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it leaves an impact, which is why in my top 5 horror films, my favorite top 5 horror films of all time is Martyrs, because that film is hard. I would never recommend that film to anyone unless I knew they could sit through it and go, this impacted me. And the reason it's in my top 5 is because I haven't felt like I felt after watching that. There's not many films that do that, and if a horror film could do that to me, bravo, you've done your job. You know, I think probably one of the most recent ones, which was on my list of last year, was Speak No Evil. I was sad for a day after that film, and it did its job, and it's done its job. I'll never forget those scenes that we'll get around to talking about. So very impactful.
It's fair to say that this film is infamous for a bunch of reasons, but it does stand on its own in that it's not just the controversy. it does its job. I think that's the best way to put it. Really, it does its job and it does leave a lasting impression. But I can't really see anybody going, "Yeah, this is my favorite film." You know what I mean? It's not that kind of movie. But...
I feel like I'd be more, if we were talking to other big old horror nerds and someone was, "Hey, what's your top 5?" And I'd like, "Oh, Cannibal Holocaust's got to be in there somewhere." Like, really? Really? I mean, fair, your point, your opinion, but what really makes that your top 5 apart from thousands of other films? Like, really, what? I can't really see many points that would do that, and it's specific scenes that would definitely take that very much lower on a totem pole for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, not that any horror film is a feel-good movie, but...
well, apart from this,
I can't see this being enjoyable in the sort of general sense of the word. You see it, you go, right, I can check that one off the list, and I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, for sure. You can say you've seen it.
Yeah. And like I say, and it did some, as we'll get to, it did some important things for horror generally, and I guess filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, as far as filmmaking, like the way Giallo, I never pronounce it right, a shot is very unique, like Italian horrors, because they're dubbed. Like the film is recorded separately to the audio. So they're dubbed, but the audio is completely separate. It will never 100% normally link up. That's why I think I first noticed it when I watched Zombie Flesh. Oh God, here we go with this fucking film.
Yeah.
Zombie Flesh Eaters, aka Zombie, aka Zombie 2. And I was like, hang on, what? Is this dubbed? Yeah. And this is quite a good dubbing, even though you watched the Spanish one.
Yeah. to refresh my memory on a couple of the sort of key scenes, I found a Spanish dub on YouTube. So I don't speak Spanish. I think it's fair. It's obvious that I don't speak Spanish. So I couldn't remember any of the dialogue, but I managed to to rewatch some of the key scenes.
I think you get the gist of it, though.
You do get. I mean, yeah. I think that the dialogue's not exactly Shakespeare, is it? I don't think you really need the dialogue to really get the gist of what's going on. I suppose, without further ado, we should probably go into some sort of plot synopsis, shouldn't we? Instead of talking around.
Yeah, no, I mean I love that question because I hadn't even thought about.
It was just something that I was thinking about it, the last couple of days and thinking, all right, I need to watch that film. And I must admit, I wasn't looking forward to watching it again because it wasn't that long ago that I saw it, and it's for various reasons, it's not the easiest things to watch.
No.
So I just thought, do I like it? I was asking myself the question initially. It's like, do I like it? Would I say that I like that film? Like, am I putting it in my top 10 or top 5 list or whatever? And I was like, no, I'm not. But I appreciate what it did, and it's certainly got a lot of talking points. There's things you can talk about at length with that film. Yeah. With this film.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been going on long enough and we've not even got to the point of it yet. But
that shows how good of a question it was, and even better that I didn't see it coming. It's brilliant. It's probably the roughest film we've done on this podcast. I'd say, other than maybe Mother's Day, but Mother's Day was quite goofy. There's not really much goofiness to this, and
I mean, zero goofiness, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, and even things like, you can't really. I couldn't really credit, say, production values for. Oh yeah, it's up there for my favorite films because I love the production values, love the sets, I love the light. There's nothing really of that. It feels like it's just being recorded on basic cameras.
I mean, it is.
There's nothing to it.
The one thing is that Deodato was going for with this was realism. Like,
Yeah.
and
Wow. Unfortunately, he
probably
went too yeah.
went too far. I think it's fair to say went
Yep.
too far. Seeing interviews with some of the cast members and things, that like, and you get the impression that by and large they regret being in this film and weren't necessarily treated particularly well. And some of the cast members were incredibly poorly treated. So this strive for realism was taken to the extreme.
I'm glad you brought out the cast member thing, because the documentary I watched, which I'm going to be everywhere at the moment, the director of this documentary, it's called Searching for Cannibal Holocaust, and he's basically just trying to understand it better. And he interviews actor called Carl Gabriel York, who plays Alan Yates. He is one of the main movie directors in the film, character-wise, that goes missing. Mm-hmm. And when he's asking, it's basically he didn't enjoy it. He didn't enjoy it at all. And he basically states that when they were on a boat heading up to one of the sets that he was filming for that day, he first saw a dead monkey float down the river next to him, and then a human leg. And he says, like, in his mind, the fuck are we doing a snuff film here? What the fuck are we doing? And oh my God, I can imagine it'd be anxious as hell being that cast. He
started taking his passport and plane ticket and all his money with him to set, because he genuinely thought at some point the crew were going to turn on him and it was going to be a snuff film.
I mean, like I said, the way it's filmed, it feels like it could have been.
I mean, that works. Yeah. To its credit, the way it's filmed. I went back and I watched a couple of the specifically the kill scenes towards the end of the film. Yeah. To see how real. I was thinking, like, oh, what are the effects like? I'd not really in doing the research and thinking about it, focused quite a lot on other areas, stuff for the animals and that we'll get to. And I thought, you know what, I've not actually looked at the film itself here quite so much. I probably should, make a few notes on that. So I had a look at the murder scenes, and because of the way it's shot and it's grainy, handy cam sort of footage, and it's shaky stuff, everything does kind of look real. Yeah, completely. Nothing stands out as being particularly hawky or homemade special effects. Everything kind of looks like, well, yeah, it looks real. It looks the part.
I mean, I flinched when someone's Johnson was getting
that was the scene I was thinking
but that was it goes. I could talk forever about this sort of style. Like, it goes back to, say, Blair Witch. How I love Blair Witch Project. They don't feel like actors.
No,
they don't feel like you're watching. Okay, I've seen. They might be in another film. I've seen. Okay, I'm not too afraid for their lives. Blair Witch, I'm like, are you guys all right? It feels natural. It feels organic. It feels real. And like you said with this, if the camera was positioned on a tripod, lighting over there, fake wind machine, it just wouldn't. It would look so phony. And that POV, I mean, it was one of the not the originator of POV, but one of the pioneers, because it's such an important film of POV. That camera adds everything. That grainy sepia tone camera, it adds more horror to it.
Yeah, definitely. The
plot is it's kind of a film of two halves, really. It's about a professor looking for going to the Amazon rainforest. It was shot in Colombia. Basically looking for four film producers, independent young filmmakers that have gone missing. They went to film these cannibalistic tribes in the Amazon rainforest, and they've gone missing. Professor's gone to look for them, and what he finds doesn't necessarily turn out to be don't know how to describe it. I mean, no, we're going to go into the spoilers anyway. The second part of the film, once he is, he's the professor's gone into the jungle. He's been accepted by one of the tribes, which I have written down here. They are the tree people, aka the Yanomamo tribe. He's accepted by them by eating intestines because they are cannibals. They themselves have the film footage of these God, I'm losing my words here. Producers, independent film directors that have gone missing. He manages to bring the films back to New York.
I mean, he finds the skeletons.
He finds everything
as well.
Yeah, everything. Brings the film back, and as they're looking through the film, things don't seem to be how you thought they were. The 4 film directors have completely antagonized and brutalized these tribes to a point where you're kind of on the side of the cannibals here. You're kind of like, okay, do you know what? White man is a dick. Coming into your neighborhood, messing up your neighborhood, killing your tribesmen and women for just their own gain. Because then we find out later a lot of their other work is all set up just for their own gain. They're killing people. And that's where this film of two halves. It's kind of like a twist. You kind of turn to the side of, okay, we're not just exploiting the fact that these tribes in the Amazon are cannibals and making the audience think everyone out there is just savages. You know, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, that's what you're expecting, isn't it? That it's these savage tribes, and then we find out as they're watching the raw footage that they kind of bring it on themselves, and that's that was deliberate. It's meant to be a commentary on Western colonialism and.
By the way, I'm awful at describing the plot off the top of my head, so just, maybe you should do that next time.
I think you did a good job. But it is so. Yeah, so as you said, the second half of the film is Professor Monroe basically saying because the reason he goes looking for it is that they want to put it on TV, don't they? They want to make a US, it's US TV. They want to make a special, and he sort of says, "Well, I found this footage, but before we talk about making it a program, maybe you should watch it." And we see that it was the film crew just being awful, being horrendous people, and kind of getting what they deserve. Really,
they really do. They are awful people, horrible people, and. Yeah, some of the stuff they do. I mean, the tribe, all the tribes that we see. I think there's maybe 3. I think there's 3 tribes. I think there's definitely 2. There's the tree people.
There's certainly 2.
Yeah. They're not all saints. Let's get that out of the way. They're not saints because we see some of their own ritualistic stuff they get on with their own tribes people, which is. The first
they're warring with each other and stuff. So but the point is that like that's fair
them.
Enough.
Yeah, whatever, that's them. Yeah,
but they went in and like deliberately antagonized and brutalized and to try and set up more action set pieces, I guess you'd say. We're just awful. So.
I mean,
so that's kind of and then got their comeuppance, and we see how that happens. So through this framing of everybody watching this found footage for the first time. So it's notoriously violent.
It is. I mean, 6 minutes in. 6 minutes in, we have cannibalism. I timestamped that.
Yeah, notorious for its violence, its depictions of violence and sexual assault, and violence towards animals, and I think it's that people have the problem with more than the cannibalism or the violence towards people, and even the rape scenes and the sexual violence. It's the fact that the violence towards animals. To write this film, is real.
Yep, it's all real.
And there is no reason for it to be real.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible.
It is. It really is. And Deodato said several times on interview that it's like, you know, I was striving for realism. And that seems to be a recurring, his kind of stock response to any questions anybody's ever asked him, or anybody ever did ask him about the extremes he went to. And he kind of tried to justify it by saying, well, all the animals we killed were eaten by the cast or the crew, and, you know, and also, you know, you can't, you need to see where the food production comes from. You can't sit there eating a beef burger and not know where it comes from. And I kind of agree with that part. I think that's a fair point. I don't need to see a monkey being like shot for no reason in a horror film. There's no need for it, regardless of who ate it afterwards. It's just, it doesn't need to be done.
No, the monkey got it. Even monkey didn't get. The pig got shot.
The pig got shot.
The monkey got not even his head chopped off. He got, oh God, I remember. Back to what we just said about this film. I'll never forget these scenes. The monkey got like a small shank or machete to the head, but it wasn't even. It was like in the middle of his skull. It was just.
Yeah.
It was too much. It's
you know
horrible.
what's worse? 2 monkeys died because they reshot that scene. So that makes it even fucking worse.
Oh no. Oh.
So I think in total,
God.
I tried to find a list of animals. So there's something called a coati, Coati. I think they call it a muskrat in the film. There's the turtle. There's a tarantula, 2 monkeys and a pig. So that is at 6 animals.
Yeah.
But it's like I say, it's all unnecessary because I don't need any of my films to be that real. There's no need for that.
No.
But some of those kills are just unnecessary anyway. Like the spider that gets the tarantula that gets macheted. It's just there's no need to kill it. They are literally like just any animal that wanders within arm's reach is getting off just because it's there and we've got a machete.
Yeah, it was on her shoulder, wasn't it? It was just on her shoulder. One of the filmmakers, other one just brushes it off with the machete. Whack, whack. It's already on the floor. Leave it alone. It's
so
fine.
Bad. It's so unnecessary.
I mean, on that documentary, the director of this documentary, he visits the rainforest and gets to meet up with some tribespeople who were part of the film. They were they're like some of the last remaining people that are alive that were. It's using the term actors loosely. They acted in this film as tribespeople, even though they're not actors. They were like extras. But they said the turtle itself. Oh, where did I note it down? Oh no, I've lost my notes. There it is. So they supplied the turtle. Their tribe themselves supplied, like, their real tribe supplied the turtle, and it was all cooked and eaten by the cast and crew itself. So it was in theory swimming around, or that they shot one swimming around, and then handed them the one that they had caught. So no one on the actual cast and crew had killed it, but you still don't want to see. You don't want to see that.
They butcher it.
It's horrible, yeah.
And it's not even clean butchery. It's like they're playing with it. It's grim. And like, you know, I'm a meat eater. I eat meat, and like I said, I'm prepared to sort of see where food comes from, and because it's a little bit hypocritical, I think, if you don't. But I don't need it. The film didn't need to be that real. I don't think it's necessary in the context of shooting a movie to just wreck up a lot of animals.
It's almost like it's almost like they did it for filling time. They needed to pad out the film a bit.
And to make it just we need some more shock. What can we do? Machete that monkey's head off. Like,
why not?
It's really, it's not it's not just you can't justify it to me. I think
No, not at all. And they also apparently they felt on the interview they said the use of live animals was like normal and fine to them, that the tribes people using it in the film. And apparently they were like, the director showed them the film Cannibal Holocaust, and the real tribes person was saying, "You did a really good job of portraying, all the animal murder." Like, oh, okay. Great, okay, because it's normal to them, especially the way the tribes were fishing. They were fishing at times. Apparently, that got a big little golf clap. But they also said it was a bit violent, the film. But the animal stuff was fine. The animal stuff was normal. It's a bit violent, the film.
Oh, that's interesting. That is
I'm glad we're getting the animal stuff out the way now.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, like we said before we start, there's a lot of big talking points to go at, I think. But I think that leads into talking about sort of how this was received by audiences generally. So this was banned in over 50 countries, and is still banned in some. I'm not entirely sure which. I probably could have spent a bit more research there, but it was only unbanned in the UK in 2001. But that was still with 6 minutes worth of cuts. And it wasn't until 2011 that it was passed again by BBFC with only 15 seconds cut from it. So that's 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, but still pretty recent in the scheme of things.
The only cut footage I know of, which is nothing compared to what's still in the film, is the piranha scene with... they were going to have a guy, an actual amputee, and then attach a prosthetic leg.
Oh, right.
And he would be tied to this log, and they'd lower him into the river and then come back up. There's all these piranhas gnawing on his leg, and keeps going and going until there's literally like bone and just bits of flesh left. That's not in the film. But keeping everything else is fine.
Oh,
we can't have that.
That must have just been cut for time then. That must have just been a runtime cut.
But everything else, yes, please, thank you. Please,
but 10 days after this film was released, the Italian government seized it and charged Ruggero with, is it indecency, or can't remember what the exact charge was.
Not overly sure.
I think it was like publication of obscene imagery or something to that effect.
Charged with obscenity.
Yeah,
that was it.
Sad note: this film came out 4 days before I was born.
Wait.
Not that that's really relevant to anything, but 21st of June.
I thought you were much younger than that.
Oh, thank you very much. No.
Bloody hell. Oh, God, I feel like a excitable kid now trying to get an adult on my podcast. Because I'm certainly not an adult. Well, you don't look it, sir. You don't look a day over being born in 81.
Oh, no, sorry, my bad. In the States, it came out 4 days before my birthday. The original date was 1980, wasn't it?
Well,
in the States, it was 85.
With the time difference.
Yeah. But, so he was up on obscenity charges.
Yeah.
And again, it was largely for the animal stuff that those charges were brought. But there is...
Didn't he get charged? No, I haven't looked this up. I'm a very busy man. I've always been under the impression, I never want to do this. Something I don't ever want to say, I heard this one time, because I never want to be that person. I know what
you're going to say, but go on.
I never want to be this person. But I've always had this sort of bit of trivia in my mind for so long, probably ever since university, that he was charged as well with like the deaths of the cast, because they went into hiding, didn't they?
Now,
I don't know if that's legit.
I've seen conflicting things about this. So generally people say, or it's generally believed that he was it led on to charges that he'd murdered these people. Because one thing he did, and again coming back to that striving for realism, he made all the actors sign a contract to say that they wouldn't appear in anything else for a year after the film's released.
Yeah.
So they could sort of play on this, is it real buzz that they had going. And then when this court case happened, it's generally believed that people started asking, well, are those people really alive or are they actually dead? And he had to contact them and bring them out of hiding.
That's it.
But I've seen a couple of different interviews with the man himself where he confirms that story and other cast members confirm that story. But then I've also seen an interview with him where he says, no, that's not true. So I'm not entirely sure just where the truth lies there, because I've seen conflicting stories from Deodato himself and various other people that were very close to the production.
I almost want to believe it was true because he's a fucking madman.
I mean, given given how he comes across how he did come across in interviews that I've seen, and given how the cast members talk about him in interviews that I've seen, it wouldn't surprise me. I get the impression that he was horrendous to work for.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, he didn't give a shit.
Everybody hated being in that film, and he really doesn't give a fuck. Which I'm not sure if I admire or if it makes me like him less. I don't know how to feel about it. Because, like, from an artistic standpoint, like, do your best work, make the film as realistic as you can, and things like that. But I think there's a very strong argument to say he went too far.
Very strong.
And beyond like what you've heard about like other notorious directors that were difficult, like Kubrick, for example, or I can't think of somebody else off the top of my head, but you know what I mean. There's actors and directors that are supposedly hard work, but I mean, he really did not give a fuck whether people were comfortable or
no, he really didn't. Also, two things. That was it. I was just about to say, this was distributed by a very reputable production company, United Artists Entertainment, as well. So they wouldn't have distributed it without seeing it, obviously. So that's got to be a gamble for that company as well, to take this. I would call him a renegade director who, I mean, he's done some big film. He did a House at the Edge of the Park, which is actually quite a good film. But they wouldn't have just put it out there without, oh shit, we didn't know what we were putting out there. That's got to be quite a gamble on their behalf as well. To then go on in the future with him getting these charges, all these problems, the film being banned. It's almost like, what were they thinking?
It is. I mean, it's mad.
And the point you mentioned about the actors not being able to had to sign waivers and potentially not being able to act. When I started watching Cannibal Holocaust earlier, which is 1981, there were two actors straight away in that from Holocaust.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the blonde guy with the little pencil mustache.
Oh, yeah.
He's in it, and so is the professor. He plays a cop in Ferox.
Oh.
Yeah. But like you said, if it was for a year, 80, 81, it may, depending on production timeline, it might work. They may have shot.
Because they effectively came out of hiding. If this story is true about them coming out of hiding for the court case, then I guess the contract is maybe null and void at that point.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they had to do it. I don't know, but that again. Is it another myth that's tied up with the production of this film? I don't know. I guess it's one of those notorious films that has a lot of stories around it.
We'll leave that as a myth, not a fact on the Dreadcast, and not something I heard down the pub. It's a potential myth. It may be true. It may be false.
Unconfirmed. Like I said, I've heard both. Both it claimed to be true and exaggeration on the media on the part of the media. So it's I don't know, but yeah, like you say, it's one of the notorious facts about this this film, and one of the reasons why it is and remains to be notorious.
One thing, the first thing I actually wanted to bring up, even though we are 50 minutes in, which is great. Did you get this? Obviously you watched the infamous Spanish version?
Yes,
the infamous,
it is the best version.
Yes, the best version. The score of the tone of the score of this film is so batshit polar opposite.
Yeah,
I've been humming it ever since I watched the film. Da, 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 da.
It's like
it's
I don't know, like Sons and Daughters or some sort of like daytime soap opera. It's so weird.
The opening credits,
it's bizarre.
The opening fucking credits where we're in a plane panning over the Amazon, different shots, Ruggero Deodato, and a couple of credited people, and then suddenly the title, Cannibal Holocaust, with this lovely but the words Cannibal Holocaust, those are two striking words that mean bad things. And suddenly happy music, and that music is played through some of the hardest points in the film. I think it's more impactful than say you know, because it's such a tone shift.
It is. Apparently, I'm taking this from the trivia on IMDb, so we can't necessarily take it as real. But a small segment of music from something called "Don't Torture a Duckling" is used in this film.
Have that on VHS over there.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That
just the title just made me laugh, given what we've talked about the animals, treatment of animals.
I've never seen it. I believe I've never seen it. It's been on my list for a long time, and I believe the title of Duckling is used in a more of a descriptive term rather than literally a duckling. Because that would be a weird film if the film is just centered around the torture of a duck. I mean, it'd be unique. But yeah, man, the score that has stuck with me. That and the specific shots, that score, I've been humming it for days. It's not a horror score. It's just bizarre.
No, it's not.
It would really, if you could really trick someone with that, if you played the film, they're panning over the Amazon, the score kicks in, and then when the title's about to come up, you could just say to someone, "Oh, just see this on my phone." And we're back to so they miss the part where it says Cannibal Holocaust. They think they're watching a lovely adventure film in the Amazon.
Yeah, it's a nature documentary.
David Attenborough's going to pop by any minute now and bash a monkey's head in.
Possibly missing a limb.
Yeah. But that was my first point. I've been meaning to bring that up. Shot on $100,000. That's I mean, it feels like it, but at the same time, that's still low. Maybe for the time, but still, it's.
I mean, it's shot on location, so I'm.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I'm trying to think what they spent the money on, because.
Well, I mean, the pay of the actors probably.
It's paying the actors, but in terms of effects, there's not a huge amount.
No, and the effects for the most part are quite minimal at times. I mean, it's gory, but like
the striving for realism, like
they.
How much does a turtle cost?
Down the market. Any turtle a pound, any turtle a pound. The last scene, back to our blonde-haired friend who gets his Johnson torn off. When his head is off his body on the floor, and they're munching through his body. That was apparently bacon wrapped around fake ribs, and like pork loins and stuff, which then eventually got covered in maggots. Apparently the actors were saying, but they just use pork pretty much for the most part, and pig intestines obviously, which you do because it's the closest to human. But I think for the most part it was pork, so that can't cost much. And to be fair, most of like hiring a boat out there can't have cost much.
That's what I mean. That seems quite high.
It's probably the shots in New York.
Yeah.
You know? And tiny little segue. What I've noticed from watching more and more Giallo films, New York is a big feature. New York is in the opening of Cannibal Ferox. New York is in the opening of this. New York is the opening of Zombie Flesh Eaters.
And Zombie Holocaust.
So is it? Oh, you were talking about Zombie Holocaust. It feels.
Yeah, it opens in a medical school in New York, I think.
I looked up that film after you mentioned it, and I'm gonna be looking into that very soon. Yeah, it kind of makes it feel like they're all connected in the same sort of universe in a way. When will these people learn not to go to these places with cannibals? Every fucking film.
It's the same group of people that insist on doing archaeology on Mars. Like that's never works out well in any film I've ever seen them do it.
Do they do that in Ghosts on Mars?
Ghosts on Mars is
that's a rough film.
To some extent, Total Recall has that element to it. There's a bunch of stuff. Don't ever do archaeology on Mars, kids.
Mission to Mars.
Doom.
Oh, Doom's great. Doom's great. Howdy, folks. Tom here. The next part of the podcast is missing about a minute of audio. Not really sure what happened in the recording, but hey ho, just wanted to give you a bit of background context as to what we were talking about. We decided to start discussing why the characters in the film are still filming whilst traumatic events are occurring, their reasoning behind it, because it's a point we've made in the podcast in previous episodes regarding POV horror films, as to you really need context and a reason as to why these characters are still filming, rather than just I'm filming a ghost, but why am I filming a ghost? Okay, and that's what we delve into next. So just wanted to give you a heads up, as I have no idea why a minute was missing. But yeah, on with the show.
Literally being killed. Or two of them have been killed at that point. Yeah. And the last two are still filming. You'd be like, just drop the camera and run. And they don't. They keep filming to the bitter end. And it is sort of... It's unrealistic, but also what they've done to sort of keep the cameras rolling and to get the good footage up to that point. It's like you say, the film is, for them, the film is above everything else. And
it's their life. It's everything. And even if they, I mean, do they honestly think they're going to get out of there after they've just seen Blondie get, he got a stake through him and then taken away and killed? They filmed that. They didn't care about helping or something. They filmed it. They had zoomed in. They got every angle. Then one of the partners got taken away and horribly assaulted. They filmed that. Did they think they were going to survive this? And what would be the point in constantly filming? They're just obsessed.
Yeah, it's odd. It is odd. But maybe that's it. Maybe that's the thought process of the characters at that point. They think, well, we're not going to get out of this, so why not document it all? But you think your natural preservation, sense of preservation would take over, and you would just bolt it.
Well, they're not the smartest people, because there's a point where they have a guide a bit earlier on in the film. They have a guide who dies by a snake bite. Snakes in his boot. But then they literally say they decide to move on and just go with their instincts. They have no idea where they're going.
Yeah.
You guys are fucking idiots. You really are idiots. Granted, they end up in the place they want to get to, but yeah.
I mean, that's like sort of usual slasher level dumb teens, sort of, isn't it?
Oh, completely. Yeah, we know what's best.
But these characters are unlikable for a whole bunch of other reasons. It's not just because they're obnoxious teenagers. It's because they're despicable people that are exploitative and
yeah.
And
I mean, the main thing they do that really is, I think it really sets it all off, is when they try to burn the whole tribe in the hut for their gain. It's all for their gain. Yeah,
they're essentially trying to stage a shot, aren't they, to sort of say, oh, it's warfare between the tribes, and it's not. Yeah. It's just them walking in and essentially trying to murder everybody. It's
they sort of round them up like round them up like cattle, because they don't see them as just another human being. They see them as savages or cavemen, like that they've not evolved like the white man has.
Yeah,
so we can do what we want with them.
This is one of the key themes of the film. Really, it's sort of behind all the controversy. It is that there is a certain social commentary on this in this film, and that is it. It's the arrogance of white colonialism, basically, and the sense of entitlement, and they deserve everything that they get. They really do. I'm not sure
if it was before this shot or after, but they end up at the location with the woman on the spike, which is kind of one of the more iconic images of this film.
Mm-hmm.
Big spike in the end. It's going up her backside and coming out of her mouth.
Yeah,
really iconic image. And as they're standing there looking up at her, Alan Yates, the main filmmaker, he's smiling like, whoa. And the guy behind the camera is like, no, cut it out. No, look distraught. And he suddenly changes his attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, this is horrible. Because they'll cut that out, put that bit in, and make it look like, yeah, this is horrible.
They care. But isn't that the girl they rape? Isn't that?
Yes, I believe it is. And I think that is, again, down to the whole virginity thing. Virginity aspect of their tribal rules and whatnot.
Yeah, so not only have they, attacked and defiled this poor girl, but they're ultimately responsible for her death as well, because she's now a victim of their tribal laws or whatever, their culture, the rules of their culture, through no fault of her own.
No.
Absolutely no fault of her own. But, if she'd have been sort of having it away with the chief's son, she probably would have been punished in the same way. But she was attacked by outsiders and punished for it. Yeah, and like you said, then they're sort of sniggering about it.
Yeah,
they're just so fucking awful people. Awful people. They really are. It's beyond.
And again, the theme of it, rape. All three of them attack her. All three of them, because we've got 3 guys and 1 woman. But one of the guys, their character's name escapes me, is with Francesca, the female of the group.
Yeah.
And she just lets it happen. She just lets
it happen. Well, not only does she let it happen, but she complains that they're wasting film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The film's the important thing.
That she complains that, why are we filming? She. It's not like. Not that it's happening, that it's her partner that's taking part in it, but because they're wasting film on this when they could be filming something better. It's
precious film.
It's it's awful.
I'm speculating here. A little bit back to Blair Witch and how the main character in that, the female name again escapes me. She states in that film that the filming, it's all I've got. Like it's her life, and it's the same with this. It's all they've got. As you say, we're wasting film. Don't worry about the woman that's being sexually assaulted by 3 men. The film is the important thing.
Yeah.
That's a bit of parallel there. How the fit, like, don't worry about what the fuck's going on in these woods. These random stick people that are hanging from the trees. The filming is all she's got. That's what's so important to them.
Yeah.
To these people. Granted, Cannibal Holocaust, they're horrible people, as we've said many times.
Many times. If you take away one thing from this podcast, the people in the Cannibal Holocaust are horrible people.
But I do. They are horrible people, but I like the fact you're led to believe they're innocent in it at the beginning, because then you get the nice sort of, okay, oh, they're actually not. Whereas there's a bit of a twist, rather than they're just nice people gone to the woods and been eaten.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's generally...
That's how it is.
That's how it is in horror films, yeah. It's innocent people wandering into a situation where, you know, they're attacked for purely by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it's not all... I mean, like I say, you get bratty kids and bratty teenagers and unlikable characters, but they're generally not awful people to the you know, committing crimes and sins to the magnitude that the filmmakers in Cannibal Holocaust are.
You want the jock and the cheerleader to get killed, to get booted off, you know, because they're annoying, they're unlikable, not deplorable human beings.
Yeah, not like because they are, not because they deserve it, just because it's kind of that's kind of the fun of it, if you will. But like you said, the title of the movie, and you know, that suggests that everybody in the antagonists, the evil people, the villains of the piece are the cannibals, are the tribes people, and we see that that's not the case. It's very much the intruders that are causing the problems.
White man.
Yeah.
It's a hard film to. It is a hard film to like. I don't really class these podcast episodes as reviews. I class them more as discussions, you know, but it's a hard one to just discuss in general. Like, we've gone through the major points, I think, for the most part, rather than going through it shot by shot. That would be that would be an even worse decision to do for this film, going through it shot by shot. Oh god, here we go again. Not another scene like this again. Oh no, not another animal.
I mean, there's a lot. There are a lot of reactions to this film, and you know, from the moment it came out to what we're like 40 years on, there's a lot of people that have talked about it and in various depths and various degrees, and it's not it's not going to go away. Like I said, one of the legacies of this film is its notoriety.
Out of
and
the
you
four...
can't.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say you can't discuss it properly without discussing the themes and the content, and you know you
can't hide away from it. It is what it is. It's a hard watch. Out of the 4 film directors at the end, obviously Blondie gets it first, then Francesca gets kidnapped, then we've got the 2 guys left. Do we see Alan? The last shot of the film is Alan's head covered in blood being thrown to the floor, and the camera beside him, and being battered. Do we see the 4th person, the 3rd guy, get killed on camera?
I don't know that we...
I can't remember.
I don't know that we do. He runs off.
I mean, I'd assume he would. Obviously, they'll catch him and...
Well, I mean, that's the camera is pointing at him running off, isn't it? And then he gets like attacked from behind or from off camera, I assume, and then you see his head. So, I mean, it's definitely implied that there's no survivor.
How could you?
But I don't think we actually see it. So I mean, I suppose if you want to just talk generally about, you know, the film and the horror elements, the body count is relatively low.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Apart
half
from
a
the
village
tribes.
gets burned,
Yeah,
but
apart from them, you know. Look at that.
But if you think about it, like in the same way you think of like a Friday film or something like that,
Yeah.
you've got like a, you know, 10 murders, 10 deaths, 10 set pieces, 10 kills to discuss. It's only, you know, okay, it's a whole bunch of people, but it's one event, and then you've got like 3 other people that we see die, 4 other people that we see die. It's not a huge.
It's really not. No. No one in the first half of the film being the professor, his guide, and the I want to say translator. I think his name was Miguel. He's the guy who has one of the tribes people on a rope to sort of lead them into the tribe. I don't think either of them, none of them die because the professor gets accepted by the tribe, which then leads us back to New York. So, first off the film, none of our main cast die.
No, I think we see a couple of people get shot. Maybe a couple of the tribes people get shot because there's like a war. Because essentially they step in and help one tribe fight off another, don't they? And I think maybe a couple of people get shot. But it's not like, I don't class that in the same way that is like an up close, gory, somebody getting their castrated and their head chopped off kill in the sort of real horror movie sense of the word. It's almost like the way people are shot in old westerns, and a gun goes bang, somebody falls over.
Yeah.
You're not really seeing anything.
It's a very theatrical falling over.
Mm.
The word, though, we talk about the kill count, the word Holocaust, I mean, in theory, like, it doesn't just mean, obviously, what happened in the horrors of World War II. I'm fairly certain it does just mean genocide. It's another term for it anyway, in a way. And if the kill count is so low, I mean, does it kind of not send the wrong message, but give the impression that there should be a higher kill count, really?
I think it's just a big word. It's got a lot of there's a lot of weight to that
completely.
word, isn't there? It's purely for the shock value, for the connotations that it has.
Yeah, there's no positive thinking behind that word whatsoever. So
no. So it's used. That word is used purely for the connotations that it has, for the imagery that it conjures up, and for the shock value of it.
There was one quote at the beginning. I think it's from the news reporter or the professor. It really stuck with me that it's before we venture into space, we should be more familiar with our own planet. And that's true. Like, for instance, we know, well, space is near enough infinite. We know more about space than we do, like, the depths of our oceans. The rainforest, we're still discovering. You see the odd time on the news, really shitty aerial pictures of tribes pointing up that we've never discovered before. Like, there's so much we don't know about the Earth, even in modern times. And I mean, there probably are tribes like this, cannibalistic tribes.
There are certainly tribes that we know of that practice cannibalism until fairly recently. But like I say, there are other tribes that are still, we know about them, but they are still isolated. There was a case fairly recently, wasn't there, about a backpacker going to an island. I can't remember where it is now, forgive me. And I can't remember which country's government sort of protect that island, but it's a no-go area. Because there's a tribe that live there that have always shown hostility to people. It was
with spears and bows.
So basically, they are protected by the whichever relevant government it is, and they sort of say, like, it is a crime to go there because to stop to just leave them alone. There's no reason to interfere with these people. But yeah, there was a backpacker.
Yeah, I found it.
Oh,
they
you have?
are the Sentinelese. I may have butchered that, of course. Sentinelese people. Between 40 and 50 members of this tribe living on this island. It's impossible to estimate the exact numbers. Perhaps the most aggressive and uncontacted tribe that exists. Nearly every attempt at contact ended in disaster and sometimes death, like you said.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah. It does happen. You do hear about it occasionally. Oh, it's North Sentinel Island off the coast of Thailand, in the Bay of Bengal.
It's a pretty big island.
And you get there was a missionary that tried to take religion to them and got killed.
See, now this is us Western white man. My interest. I'm interested. Like I want to know more about them now. But like, you should just leave them alone.
But
leave them alone. Don't spread our Western values to them.
No, and that's what this film. That's what Cannibal Holocaust is a commentary on. In a lot of ways, it is about that arrogance of Western civilization, feeling like we own the world, and have every right to be in every part of it, and it's it's not the case.
No.
And people should be left to live how they want to live, and certainly not to be setting up these shots and things like that. But I don't know. What are there any positives to this film? Because I feel like we're just ragging on it now.
Here's a fun one. So not a fun one. It doesn't start fun. So when they burnt the Yakumo tribe in the hut, they went straight onto a scene of them having sex on the bamboo.
Oh yeah.
Apparently that took 5 takes. And after the 5th take, when they got it, one of the people playing the tribesman came up to them and was like, five times? Thinking, like, this guy's a fucking superhero or whatever, like a warrior. He managed to do it 5 times? Wow. No, 5.
What a lad.
Yeah. How would you gone? Yeah. Could have been 6, but he wanted the cut.
Oh, I hope that's true.
Yeah. Did you ever see? Kind of relate. Did you ever see Eli Roth's The Green Inferno?
I haven't, but I watched the trailer for it last night while doing some research and prep for this, and I did. To be honest, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah,
I didn't even know it existed, but it got mentioned several times in articles I read that and he has flat out said that Cannibal Holocaust was a big inspiration for it, and watching the trailer,
it shows.
It clearly is. So I will track that down and watch it at some point. That
has what you were mentioning earlier about how another sort of slasher, you kind of look for these characters to get killed off or whatever. Like it's the same sort of thing in Green Inferno. There are some characters that you don't really care about. Not so deplorable as our characters in this film, but it very much feels like an Eli Roth film. The gore is there in spades. The gore is over the top. But it's because like the phrase Green Inferno is the Amazon, and they refer to it in this film. Yeah. They refer to
I think there's a video game called Green Inferno as well, actually.
Is there now?
I think so. There's definitely some sort of jungle survival game that came out fairly recently.
Is that The Forest?
No.
Oh, survival. No. Okay. Green Hell. Oh, Green Hell.
Green Hell.
Green Hell. A relentless but Okay.
Which I don't think has any sort of tribal antagonist element to it whatsoever. It's purely about surviving in the jungle. But it was just the similar titles that reminded me. The thing about Green Inferno, though, and I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it. But from watching the trailer, the way the tribes people are depicted in that seems to be a little bit more stereotypical than it is in Cannibal Holocaust. Like everybody is painted yellow, practically got bones sticking out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's which
it's a bit much.
It is a bit much in it. It is a bit much. I'm not gonna say it, but it feels a bit off.
It's a bit trying too hard.
And like I say, I've not seen it, so I don't know. But it does like that. It's surprising that Cannibal Holocaust doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Given that it's an old film, you'd kind of expect that sort of aspect to depicting native tribes people more, in an older film than you would in 2013.
Yeah, something like that. Dare I say that's a positive of the Cannibal Holocaust. They're depicted as, I guess, as closely as real as they could be, rather than made up to be some goofy, over-the-top tribe that's just so crazy and wild and wacky. Like
it is like fantasy tribes. It reminds me of the Skull Islanders in the Kong.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
you know what I mean. That sort of real, like fantastical, like every sort of cliche trope you can think of, like the war paint, the sharp teeth, the animal headdresses, everything you can think of all slapped on.
I think the closest we get to that in Cannibal Holocaust is the tree people, as they call them.
Yeah.
Where they're all, I want to say painted white. They have whatever it is. They're very pale and white, and the chief has some sort of very some sort of headdress with hay or grass.
Yeah.
And that's about it. It's not overkill. And every other tribe is either there's one that they're I want to say they have very dark makeup all over them, and then there's another tribe that are normal, and they're all just wearing maybe a little pouch around the genitals. That's about it. They've got long.
And I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying there's no evidence for that anywhere, but it does seem to be very sort of pronounced and over the top from what I saw in the Inferno trailer.
It's all right. It's not the worst film.
I'll give it a watch.
It's an Eli Roth film. You can tell. You'll be able to tell it's an Eli Roth film from it. And he tries to get some. He tries to get some sort of modern day context across as well in it. It's about like chopping down rainforest.
It's about yeah. There seemed to be a strange amount of high-vis jackets in it, from what I could gather from the trailer. I was like, they've got correct PPE on, I guess.
Yeah,
it just seemed really weird. It just seemed a really weird thing.
Past your health and safety.
Yeah, and they've all got CSCS cards, and they've had their induction. I don't know. It just stood out as being really funny.
I look like a serial killer on my CSCS card. It's creepy. I hate it.
Oh, I don't think anybody looks good on those things. Mine's terrible as well. My MPOS card is just as bad.
Yeah, much else on it. I mean, like we said, it's a hard one to discuss. I feel like we have discussed it.
I feel like we have discussed all the main points. I mean, a couple of points just to kind of wrap things up and talk a little bit more about the legacy of it, as we sort of opened by saying this film has its place in the timeline of horror as being an important film. And one of the things that it kind of brought to the table is the found footage. It's one of the earliest examples of found footage film. I don't know if that's certainly a famous example
Yes.
of found footage, if not the first. It's one that everybody knows, and we.
Yeah, I think people know this more than say Peeping Tom. I think Peeping Tom was
Mm.
one of the first proper found, like not but then you say found footage or POV.
I mean, it's found footage. It's quite
found footage.
literally found footage.
Yeah, okay. As found footage, it's definitely probably the first. But you got POV, which is still found footage. But POV is probably Peeping Tom. This is definitely found footage.
And we've mentioned Blair Witch, or you mentioned Blair Witch a couple of times while we've been discussing this, and I think in certainly in documentaries about Holocaust I've seen, Blair Witch comes up quite a lot, and I think if I remember rightly, the makers of Blair Witch Project hadn't seen Cannibal Holocaust before they made their film.
Really now?
Yeah, and they made their film, and it was like, have you? But the obvious parallel is that a lot of people thought that was real as well.
Yep.
So that's the big parallel between Cannibal Holocaust and its sort of its legacy is that then 10 years ish later we got another found footage film that a lot of people thought was real and had probably just as big sort of mythology surrounding it about what was real and what wasn't real and what happened.
As in, 10 years is in Blair Witch. 10 years later.
Yeah, when was Blair Witch?
99. So just.
Oh, was it so late? Oh,
yeah, just under 20 years.
Okay, 20 years then. 20 years later.
Yeah.
I don't in my head it was early 90s, but that's me showing my age.
Hey, 99 to me was a few years ago.
But oh yeah, so okay, 20 years later. But yeah, there's obvious, yeah, but like I said, there's those parallels remain that it is the same thing. So yeah, apparently they hadn't seen Cannibal Holocaust until after the fact, and they were like, "Oh yeah, wow, no, we had no idea. We've just done the same thing," kind of. Which and it's also, I guess, a benchmark for extreme horror. I mean,
without doubt.
Without doubt. We've talked about Green Inferno. Filmmakers that have come later have attempted to do, if not the same sort of storyline, there's like an arms race for the most extreme horror film you can make, or the more showing the most violence, or being the most gratuitous, or
Serbian film.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's just
so bad.
I would probably watch this over that if I had to choose.
Yeah,
if I had to choose one of the two,
I definitely don't need to watch that again.
No,
ever. I didn't really need to watch it in the first place. I went into that very blind. I knew nothing about it before I saw it.
You know everything about it now.
Too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think out of all after watching this and learning about it, I think the learning about it has been the most interesting part.
Yeah.
The behind the scenes stuff, like anything you saw in Cursed Films episode, which I had seen that came out, documentary.
I imagine that Cursed Films episode uses a lot from the documentary that you watched. I imagine I doubt there's nothing new to I doubt it's saying anything new.
No, I think so. The documentary came out in 2021. I know the Cursed Films is quite recent as well, but this documentary felt very, I want to say indie. There's a Scottish director. It's not big. It's filmed on like handy cams. And he just went out of his way and managed to get these scoops. He spoke to the guy that played Alan Yates. He spoke to the dubber of the film, the guy who did the dubbing, who also did dubbing for so many Italian films. He spoke to one of the tribes people that worked in the film.
Oh, right.
He went. This tribes person took them to some of the locations that they were shot, like up the river.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it kind of felt like everything that needed to be said had been said, so it'd just be sort of rehashing. But that's interesting. I'll try. I'll guess I'll watch it at some point.
It is. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's yeah, very, very interesting. Very, very thought provoking as
But
well.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Sort of the behind the scenes stories and things are not more interesting than the film, but yeah, there is only so much animal cruelty and rape scenes you can take.
Exactly. It's
Really?
like a film. Once you've seen, I mean, I've seen this 3 times now.
Yeah.
Once you've seen it once, it's very much enough compared to other horror films. But compared to other horror films, it's probably one of the ones you're more interested to learn the backstory and scandals and controversy behind it.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stories and commentary on it. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we're 2 guys on a podcast talking about Cannibal Holocaust. There are a lot of podcasts out there and YouTube videos out there talking about this film because it is a notorious, controversial example of extreme horror. How like I say, it's got that extra element that people thought it was real. There's a court case assigned to it. Most of the cast hated being in it. There's a lot of interesting stuff surrounding it.
Yeah,
outside of the actual film itself.
I can imagine there's other shows on YouTube, horror shows on YouTube or podcasts that will deep dive into, say, more of the animal murders and the rape scenes and the assaults, and it's you don't need to. You just don't need to. It's there. We can tell you it's there. Why get not pleasure but entertainment from discussing fictional rape and sexual assault and all that, and then actual real animal murders? It's not that entertaining. It's more about discussing it and points behind it.
Yeah, it's like you said at the top of this. It's a checklist film.
Yeah,
it's one to watch so you can say you've seen it.
Yeah,
and then go and watch something better, nicer.
I still want that 4K edition though.
Yeah, but like as a collector's, I appreciate it as a collector's piece, as a collector's item. I saw that Blu-ray copy and I thought, I'd have it in the collection. Probably wouldn't watch it again.
No,
or wouldn't rush to watch it again.
No,
but I'd have it in the collection as, it's a big film for the genre.
Yeah, it's an important film. I'd also love, I think we mentioned before in the last episode when we said we were going to do this. Oh God, what's it called? Is it Vipco? Vipco?
Yeah, Vipco.
Vipco's Vault.
The Vipco Vault of Horror.
That's the image. I used that VHS image, VHS cover image for the poster on the video version of this template to all you video watchers, so it's in the middle between us, because that's the one I remember first ever seeing about this film, seeing that in HMV, big skulls at the top, big font, Cannibal Holocaust. I'm like, whoa, I need to see this at some point because this sounds mental. Again, back to the 2 words, cannibal and Holocaust. It's I mean, if you called it Cannibal Blood Holocaust, there's not many other words that you could put with that to be as extreme. Those are two very extreme words.
Yeah.
When you see that as a kid, you're very, very, what's the word? As a kid, you're very, very influenced by stuff like that. Not influenced.
Drawn to, impressed by.
Yeah, I was very drawn to things like that.
Yeah.
Because it was very not the norm. It was stuff at the back of HMV, the hidden sort of stuff. You want to show people.
I mean, the thing about seeing something like this on the shelf in a video shop or like a rental shop store or HMV or somewhere you're going to buy something from is that it's probably going to have previously banned or extreme or with even more extreme footage plastered somewhere all over. It's very sensational. It knows what it is. And it's just occurred to me that we've got through pretty much this entire podcast without saying video nasty.
I
of
don't know if we
course-
did. I don't know if we did say video nasty.
And this is the video nasty. This title is
It is.
synonymous with that whole debate and that whole scandal about extreme cinema, and
Yeah.
this is one of the original sort of poster films of the video nasty.
That's what I was going to say. The poster
Craze.
child of it. Yeah, it's the poster child of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like how, I don't know, Superman is the poster child of DC, or Batman. Cannibal Holocaust is the poster child of video nasties.
And it's got, like I said, it's got that legacy as being, you know, the extreme film of extreme films.
Yeah.
So that's something.
I think we're done being sad and depressed. I think that there's a reason why, like, we're doing this for now a year. This is probably, like I said, other than Mother's Day, probably the most extreme film we've done on the series, and I think you've got to sprinkle these in, but with a big gap in between. So it's going to be a while before we do another one like this. But yeah, I think we hit all the points. Yeah. Do you know what's
Tom.
next week? Oh, what?
Would you say you've had your fill of cannibalism?
Oh man. So alright. Man, so like I said, this is the third time I've seen this, but I watched it Thursday now. Monday and Tuesday lunch break. Tuesday evening I started searching for Cannibal Holocaust, the documentary. I finished that yesterday lunch break. Started Cannibal Ferox last night.
Yeah, that is a lot.
I'm pooped. I'm done.
That is a lot of cannibalism.
I'm done with cannibalism.
You heard it here first. He's given up.
I'm gonna watch some Simpsons or something just to cleanse the palate.
It does even, talking about it for this length of time, it does feel like I need to watch,
something.
The Good Life. A couple of episodes of The Good Life.
I didn't mind.
Some Bob Ross painting videos, something wholesome.
There we go. Bob Ross is the epitome opposite end of Cannibal Holocaust. I'm just gonna paint a happy little cannibal here. Just give him a friend there, and
is it on a happy little spike?
But next week, you're going to be here next week?
I will.
Do you know what next week is? You know what we're doing next week?
I should know. I know I should know because I saw the schedule, but I can't remember.
Well, it is on the schedule. We only mixed up these 2 weeks because of situations out of our control, which is fine. Next week I put on the schedule was not so much a film, but I felt like a topic episode and discussing what really. Hang on, I'm gonna get this wrong. What really scares you in horror? I believe that's what they did. Like what. Certain people find paranormal scary. Certain people find home intrusion scary. You know, I find that very interesting and what different people find scary in horror. I put it out there on my personal social medias. I got some feedback, and some of the points are quite interesting. So, be interesting to see what your points are.
Mm-hmm.
Mine. Go back and forth and have a little discussion about that. And then, in our own time, we'll come up with a nice little schedule for February. I've got one fun one specifically in mind. I will mention to you off podcast.
Nice.
It's for a specific date in February. I will say.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Wonder what that could be.
Oh, Pancake Day.
Although, I think it's pretty obvious what the date is, but I wonder what film it is.
Oh, there we go. Exactly. Yeah, one of many. Right. No more cannibalism. We're getting the hell out of here. Thank you again for not stopping by, for being the co-host while T is taking the sabbatical.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
It is now a trio. The Dreadcast is now a trio. You are not a special co-host. You are now part of it was the Dreadful Duo I was labeling it as. We're the Dreadful Trio now.
The Dreadful Trio.
There we go.
Like it. Happy to be here.
Yep. Again, follow us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, and YouTube, all by searching the Dreadcast, and Instagram, _Dreadcast. You can follow Aidan below him at Aidan Half Troll. And how's that Twitch planning going?
Oh, Dad. I'm doing a podcast now, so I don't know when I'm gonna get. I don't know. I feel like I need to just jump back in and do a stream. I'm kind of. Thing is, generally speaking, I'm not really playing very much at the minute. There's no games out that are particularly grabbing me, so I just generally haven't been gaming. When something comes out that I want to play, then I'll probably switch the camera on.
Let's go play Green Hell.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah. Maybe I find a game about cannibals, The Forest.
Oh God, no more, no more.
I don't even want to hear the word anymore.
No more. Right, we're getting the hell out of here. Until next time, folks. Next week discussion episode. What do you find scary in horror? Follow us both below. I did that. Did the podcast. Did that. I think that's it.
That is it.
And
Thanks for listening, guys.
Oh yeah, I always forget to say thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Until next time. Do you know this bit? No, I'll do it. Stay spooky.
Stay spooky and sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.